This time last week, I was stood in front of the same screen and I was actually struggling to find things to talk about on the deep dive because the weather was glorious. There was lots of sunshine, wall-to-wall sunshine in many areas, and it felt very warm in the sunshine too. This week, however, there's a lot more to talk about, and it's all thanks to this. More cloud and more rain, and that's pretty much the setup as we head through the week and likely into the Easter weekend. Hello, my name's Honor Criswick and I'm a meteorologist and presenter here at the Met Office. So we're really going to delve into the weather this week because it's very different if you compare it to all the sunshine last week. Quite a lot of rainfall, quite heavy in places, already a couple of rainfall warnings issued with a chance that we could see some more. We're also going to take a look at the weather for this weekend. It's the bank holiday weekend for many of us. The Easter holidays are still about to for lots of people. Now, I'll be totally honest with you, we are going to look at the Easter weekend forecast, but there's still quite a lot of uncertainty, even though it's still only a few days away. That's because of the weather this week, so we're going to link the two up and really delve into why. And we're also going to take a look overseas too, because if you're planning to get away for the Easter holidays, I'm afraid a lot of Europe has quite a lot of unsettled weather as well. Lots of rain, strong winds, cooler temperatures. So we're going to take a quick look at that too. And if you're new here, make sure you subscribe. And if you're watching this, make sure you give it a thumbs up too. And that helps us produce more content like this across all of our social media channels. So if you're enjoying it, definitely give it a thumbs up. So this is a radar picture from this afternoon. We can see already we're seeing outbreaks of rain push into parts of Wales, parts of Devon and Cornwall. It was quite wet outside today when I took a break before filming this video. We also saw a little bit of rain across East Anglia. That's pushing its way northwards now. But how long is this rain actually going to stick around? Well, to take a look at that, as per usual, I'm going to have a look at our synoptic pattern first. So the reason for the change to unsettled weather is that area of high pressure is long gone now, drifted its way southwards, along with the jet stream that drifted southwards, and that's allowed a lot more Atlantic mobility to take hold, with frontal systems crossing the country, bringing us more cloud and rain. So it's low pressure, this time pushing up from the southwest, pushing into parts of Devon and Cornwall, parts of Wales, which is why we've seen the rain this afternoon. And we're going to continue to see that rain for quite a while, actually. If I play this forward, we can see that area of low pressure drifting its way northwards, pushing into northwestern parts of England, southern Scotland, and eventually it'll be pushing into Northern Ireland too. So it is moving its way northwards, eventually clearing from parts of the south as we head through into Wednesday. But even still, there's some uncertainty there, even though it's just tomorrow. Some models have this moving slightly slower, some have it moving slightly quicker, and that's going to have an add-on effect as to whereabouts we see the longer and persistent outbreaks of rain and where we're going to see those rainfalls tot up over the next 24 hours or so. But nevertheless, eventually it does push its way northwards, and as it does so, it's actually falling into a slightly cooler air mass, so it might even bring some snow across part of the Scottish Highlands, part of the Pennines as well. It's not going to be impactful, it's probably not going to be very much, but definitely a chance of seeing some sprinkling across higher areas in the north. Now eventually low pressure drifts its way away from us towards the North Sea, and we see a slightly brighter day on Thursday. No frontal systems moving in, but a chance we could start to see some showers pep up. It's getting warm enough in the year now that we see surface-based convection, see some showers, possibly if it gets warm enough we could see some quite heavy showers. So a brighter day on Thursday. Yes, we haven't got any systems moving through, but still a chance there could be a little bit of rain around. Then it's really this system on Friday, so Good Friday, the beginning of the bank holiday weekend, and we've got this area of low pressure drifting in once again from the southwest, once again bringing in more cloud and some outbreaks of rain. But this is our global model. And at the moment it's got this low pressure just sitting out to the southwest of the country. But a few different models actually position this low in slightly different places. And similar to this week, that means it's really dependent on whereabouts that low sits as to where we're going to see the more persistent rain and the higher totals. Obviously, with quite a lot of rain this week, a potential for travel disruptions, some flooding. So it's really important that we kind of delve into whereabouts this area of low pressure is going to sit as to figure out where the impacts for all the rainfall is going to be. So that's one of the question marks that we're going to look at in this week's deep dive. And it's a bit of a challenge for our forecasting team this week to try and figure out whereabouts this low pressure is going to sit. But I'm afraid low pressure nevertheless, and it does stick around all the way through Saturday and in Easter Sunday. Now this is just our global model, so a chance this frontal system or this area of low pressure could be sat in a slightly different location, but nevertheless it is looking like Easter weekend looks a bit unsettled. But it's not going to be a total washout, there might be some brighter interludes, we'll talk about that a bit more in a moment. But on the whole, and a very different week compared to last week, more unsettled, more cloud, more rain. So if we look at that through the course of the week, I'll ignore Tuesday for now. Actually, no, I won't ignore Tuesday because we've got a warning out. So we'll talk about Tuesday all the way through into Good Friday. So the next few kind of working days. And you can see already from a lot of the blues, there's quite a lot of wet weather around. Even on Thursday, as I said, a brighter day, but still a chance we could see some showers, particularly across central and southern areas, and perhaps some longer spells of rain just as we say goodbye to that area of low pressure as it drifts its way northwards. But over the next kind of 24 hours or so, it's really across the southwestern parts of Wales where we're likely to see the bulk of the rainfall. So that means rainfall totals are soon going to increase their way as we head over the next few hours. So if I just show you this here. There we go, got there eventually. Oh, so that's 3-hour total. So I'll show you over 12 hours what we can really see. So by the time we reach kind of tomorrow, we can really see those darker blues, and as we get to the yellows and oranges, that's where we're looking at kind of 25 to 50 millimetres of rain. So we can see that a few yellowy spots there across parts of Devon, parts of Cornwall, southern parts of Wales, and these darker colours mostly in western areas, eastern parts of Northern Ireland as well. And if I play this through once again, we can really see that's where we're expecting the bulk of the rain as that system drifts its way northwards. And as we head through into tomorrow morning as well, we're really seeing those rainfall totals increase across eastern parts of Northern Ireland, and particularly across higher ground as well. So any kind of high ground in these general areas where the outbreaks of rain push up against that higher ground, it still condenses as it cools, so you tend to get heavier downpours, particularly on the windward side of any hills or mountains. So that can act as a trigger sometimes, or we see heavy outbreaks of rain if it's in a particularly hilly area. That's where you tend to get the kind of the heaviest outbreaks of rain. So because of this, we have got some warnings issued, which I'm going to show you now. I'm sure if you follow our channels, you're already aware, but this warning was issued yesterday. This is for parts of the southwest and parts of Wales. So widely, not just across hilly areas, we could see between 20 to 40 millimetres. Now, in a way, this is a good thing. I'm sure lots of farmers, growers are pleased to see the rain. We had quite a dry couple of weeks prior to this. We've also had some wildfires across the country, Wales, Scotland. I think there's been some in Northern Ireland as well. There's been some wildfires. So actually the rain is welcome for many. I know not a lot of people are a fan of the rain, but it's probably welcome rain in many situations. But obviously where the kind of area of low pressure kind of stalls across these areas, those rainfall totals are going to increase, and it could potentially lead to some impacts, travel disruption, flooding. It could be quite a wet commute to work into tomorrow morning, particularly across Northern Ireland. So there's still things we need to consider, and hence why we've got the warning issued. So this warning's issued now up and through until midday tomorrow, Wednesday. And there's a good chance, widely 20 to 40, but could also possibly see between 50 and 75 millimetres of rain, once again across those upslope areas, across any low-lying areas, for example, could see quite a lot of rainfall and some impacts. So if you're in these areas, make sure to keep an eye on our website for any more warning updates. And then we've also got this secondary warning across eastern parts of Northern Ireland, where we saw those brighter yellow colours in the last graphic I just showed you. So once again, 20 to 30 millimetres widely, and then a chance we could see 50 to 60 millimetres. Once again, particularly across high ground, so Antrim and Down, for example, could potentially see these quite high rainfall totals. So keep an eye on those warnings. They are currently issued and on our website, and also a chance of some further warnings as we head through the week as well, with more of the rainfall coming through. So those are the warnings that we currently have issued. As I've said, there's still a little bit of uncertainty through the week, particularly on Wednesday and Thursday as well. Let's just move over. Here we have this area of low pressure. I'll just turn the jet stream off for a minute. So this is our kind of global model where it sits that area of low pressure, but some models, as I've mentioned, have it slightly further south, slightly further west. The location is still slightly different across our models, even though it's only tomorrow. And once again, that's going to be really dependent where that low pressure sits as to how much kind of rainfall we'll see. I just wanted to show you this for an example as to why the forecasting can be so difficult. So here are some postage stamps from our MOGREPS model. So we run this model with slightly different initial conditions each time, and then we look at all the different outputs it produces. Now you can see quite a few do have these kind of, here's a key along the bottom, sorry it's a little bit covered over, but if you're getting into the orange, reds, the pinks, that's kind of higher rainfall totals over a 6-hour period. Now many of these kind of show quite high rainfall totals across northern areas. That's kind of following our global model as that low pressure moves its way northwards across Scotland. Obviously we're going to get more rainfall there, the totals are going to increase. But there's also a couple of members, if I point some out. So member 5 here, for example, is showing some totals across parts of Devon, southeastern parts of Wales there, probably Somerset, Wiltshire, those kind of areas. So that's member 5. We've also got a few more. Member 2, member 1, 29, 30. Quite a few actually along the bottom here are showing some increased rainfall totals as we head across, as we head through into the early hours of Thursday morning. So there's an indication there that we could also see some rain across the south, even though our general weather story is that low pressure is shifting northwards. It's leading to a slightly brighter day as we head into Thursday. There is still a chance of seeing some rain across the south, but there's also an equal chance really that we could see nothing at all. So that really just shows how difficult forecasting can be sometimes when you're looking at a difference between quite a wet day and quite a dry day. So it's just kind of trying to emphasize the kind of difficulty in the forecasting this week. Yes, we're looking at quite an unsettled picture, outbreaks of rain, but really pinpointing whereabouts the rainfall is going to be, where the rainfall totals are going to increase and hence lead to some impacts can be quite tricky sometimes, and this is definitely what we're seeing as we head through into this week. So I think that's everything I wanted to talk about this week. We've got rainfall, we've got warnings issued, potential to see further warnings issued too. So let's talk about the weekend next, Easter weekend. So if we head back to the bigger picture, obviously I already kind of hinted at it's going to be unsettled. This area of low pressure moving its way through, bringing in more cloud, more rain, particularly across the west. At least this is what this model is suggesting, all the way through as we head into Sunday. But obviously where there's the uncertainty this week, it's kind of difficult to tell you what's going to happen on the weekend because it's really dependent on what happens over the next few days. But we're going to look at some themes, look at some patterns, and see why there is this uncertainty as we head through the bank holiday. So I'm going to start with this one. So here we have a Dalmatian plot. So what we're kind of looking at is, this is from our European model. So when we look at these, this kind of model output, we're really looking at where these kind of spots, the Dalmatian spots, are kind of clustering together. That kind of gives an indication. For example, you can see here quite a few clusters of these spots. So that's kind of giving an indication that, for example, there could be an area of low pressure here, there could be a trough here. But when the spots are quite spread out, it's anyone's guess really as to whereabouts, for example, an area of low pressure could sit. So this is for midnight on Sunday. This is what our European model is showing. So some hints that there's some kind of activity across the south. But then if we take a look at MOGREPS, our MOGREPS model, there's spots pretty much across the UK. So that's once again bringing us into that uncertainty, whereas there could be an area of low pressure perhaps slightly further south or perhaps further north, and once again that's where we're going to see the heaviest rainfall. So this is for Easter Sunday. So this is already just giving you an introduction as the kind of uncertainty that we're looking at and the kind of model confidence. This also shows it quite well. So across on my far left, this is our global model. In the middle, that's the American model, and on my far right, it's the European model. So we can see these two look kind of similar. If we focus here on our global model, it might not be super clear, but there's an area of low pressure here, just sitting kind of just to the west of the UK, kind of just almost across Ireland there. And it sweeps in this frontal system. You can see the kind of blue dots indicating precipitation there. So it sweeps in an area of precipitation mainly across the north, Northern Ireland, Scotland, northern parts of England, perhaps just clipping into Yorkshire, Lancashire, East Anglia. It indicates perhaps a little bit across the far southwest, but central areas, parts of Wales, look relatively dry. Now, if we take then a look at our American model, once again an area of low pressure, this time slightly shifted further west. So it doesn't look like there's going to be as much precipitation. Once again, Northern Ireland, southern Scotland, northern parts of England looks like they're going to catch the bulk of it. Similarly, it's also got something just lingering here in the southwest. But northern parts of Scotland actually look fairly decent, but not too dissimilar, kind of fairly similar story. Then we took a look at our European model. It's got the low pressure all the way situated to the very far northwest. And actually, it's not showing much precipitation at all. So once again, this is for Easter Sunday, I should have said. So once again, we're kind of looking at a difference between quite a soggy Easter egg hunt compared to quite a dry Easter egg hunt. And still we're seeing this kind of difference across our models, even though Easter Sunday is actually only a few days away now. So what we're hoping for through the week is some of these models will start to agree with each other and start to give an overall general consensus as the kind of weather we can expect. But at the moment, there's so many differences that it's anyone's guess really which one we kind of go for. But we can give broad trends. Already we've kind of seen similarities between our global model and American model, hints of some kind of precipitation across the north, but also some brighter interludes elsewhere. So our main kind of, the main factor we're really focusing on this week, and as we head into the Easter weekend, is the rainfall. As we see more and more through the week, that can lead to impacts, obviously flooding. So on our far left here, once again, we have our global model. In the middle this time, we've actually got EC, and then on our far right is American model. So these two have just flipped over. But what we can see here with our global model, our American model on the far left and far right, is once again it is indicating higher rainfall totals, so the red colours, higher rainfall totals across the north. If we actually delve into these numbers though, global model, making sure I get the right one now, global model here on the left, if we look at some of these numbers, this is kind of the millimetres, the amount of rainfall we can expect. And actually some of these numbers are a little bit worrying. Northern Ireland, around 120 millimetres. Parts of Scotland, we're looking at between 70 and 90 millimetres of rain. Across the Pennines, once again, like kind of what I was saying, that heavy rain pushing up over high ground, condensing, and we get heavier bursts of rainfall here. Across the Pennines, kind of between 40 and 60 millimetres. Even in the south, it's indicating around 30, which could potentially we could potentially see some heavier downfalls there. So this is what we're kind of focusing on this as we head towards Easter Sunday, because this could potentially lead to some impacts. It's likely we'd produce some warnings if this kind of model run actually came into play, and it's actually what we see happen. So this is something we're focusing on, the potential for warnings on Sunday, the potential for quite a wet Sunday. And similarly, looking at our American model, this is also indicating some high rainfall totals across parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, also hinting at something in the south as well, so that's also something to keep an eye on. However, then we take a look at our European model once again, and this is the one where it had the low all the way to the northwest of the country, so not bringing in much precipitation, and it looks largely dry. Perhaps a little bit of rain across the very far west of Scotland. Southern parts of Ireland, for example, actually look like they could get some reasonable totals if this outcome came off. So there's lots of uncertainty around the Easter bank holiday. We're looking at a real difference between some quite impactful rain and potentially quite a dry, nice day. Lots of nice weather to get out and about for your Easter bank holiday weekend. So yes, we can dive into the Easter kind of forecast. However, there's still quite a lot to play for. There's still a lot to think about as we head into this week. Whereabouts low pressure areas are going to sit as it's all linked together. If that moves off fairly quickly, that might allow something to move in a bit quicker as we head towards the Easter weekend and once again increase those rainfall totals. So there's quite a lot to play for still for the Easter bank holiday. So it's always worth keeping an eye on our forecast. Obviously, we'll update you day by day, and hopefully over the next few days, we'll get a bit more model consistency. But at the moment, generally, across the Easter bank holiday, it does look unsettled. It's likely to be quite wet in some places, potential to see some warnings. This is kind of worst case scenario here on my far left. But it's not going to be a total washout, and it's likely there'll also be some brighter interludes. But whereabouts the heavy rainfall is going to be, whereabouts the dry weather is going to be, is still a bit of a question mark. Any hints of something drier to come? I think I stood here last week and promised you that the wet weather was actually going to be a brief spell, and that was a lie. At the time, it did look like the unsettled weather was going to be fairly brief, and by the time we got to Easter weekend, it looked a lot drier. But that signal over the next few days kind of got pushed back more and more, and then it started to look like actually Easter weekend could potentially be a little bit wet. But there is a signal once again for these more red colours, higher pressure taking over, perhaps leading to something a little bit more unsettled, but obviously it's still very dependent on what happens over the next few days. But here we are, starting at the beginning of the week. This, as we move our way towards the right, then we head into towards the end of April. These are the most recent model runs here on the top, and as we move our way down, those are previous model runs. So, kind of looking at this overall, there's a fairly consistent change, even with recent models, from the blue to more of the red colours. But even into next week, if we actually take a look at these percentage numbers, they're still fairly low, only around the kind of 50, 40, 30% mark as we progress into next week. But then we start to see a slight increase for kind of Monday the 28th, Tuesday the 29th, so the end of April. More red colours, high percentages, so a chance of something a little bit better as we head towards the end of April and into May. But because of last week, I'm not going to totally put any bets on that one, because it does seem this area of high pressure across the UK keeps getting pushed further and further back into the future. But some hints definitely that something more settled is on its way, but over the next couple of weeks or so, there's still probably going to be likely a fair amount of rain. So perhaps over the Easter holidays, you're not fussed about the UK weather. Perhaps you're lucky enough to be going on holiday. You might be heading over to Europe. I know some of our other presenters are on holiday at the moment. Some have just got back from their holidays. But unfortunately, if you're hoping to escape a lot of the wet weather, it really depends whereabouts you chose to go on holiday. If you're stuck around Europe, there's quite a lot of wet weather there as well. Let's take a look at that on our synoptic chart here. Let's go over to, I'll show you the rainfall as we head globally. So let's just skirt over to Wednesday. So we can see already across southern Europe, central parts of the Mediterranean, there's quite a lot of rainfall. It's actually been named Storm Hans by the Italian Met Service. Heavy rainfall, potential for some thunderstorms, strong winds, not good if you're heading out for a cruise. So there's still quite a lot of unsettled weather, even if we head over to across the Mediterranean, across other parts of Europe. Now, if I play this through, this kind of lingers on Wednesday and Thursday. So we're looking at particularly some potentially quite heavy rainfall. Some areas might even get a month's worth of rainfall. And if we notice once again this kind of, as this area of low pressure swirls around, pushing into parts of Switzerland, pushing into parts of the Alps. So once again, the rainfall pushing up against that high ground, cooling, condensing as it increases, really making that, really creating some quite heavy downpours. So even across Switzerland, we could see some heavy rain, likely to see some snow across the tops of the mountains there. But it's really Wednesday through Thursday that we see those heavy outbreaks of rain before they eventually filter away and ease off later Thursday and into Friday. So some quite heavy outbreaks of rain even still across Europe. But why? Why is this? So here's a little map here if I just orientate you. This is the southern coast of the UK. Here we've got Spain, Italy, Sardinia's just here, roughly in the middle. And this is kind of showing, positive vorticity. So this is showing a good trough, kind of troughing feature moving its way through into the Mediterranean. And as it does so, it kind of disrupts. So this is kind of showing a disrupted trough feature. And without delving too much into the meteorology and making it too complicated, what this basically shows is a trough feature. So pressure is declining as at the kind of head of this trough. So we've got lowering pressure, creating an area of low pressure, Storm Hans. So that's one trigger for the unsettled weather. Also, if we take a look at the kind of air mass temperatures we can expect, if I just head this over to Wednesday. Now the colours are fairly similar, but notice these slightly darker orange colours moving their way through. Oh yeah, you can see that quite nicely actually. These slightly darker orangey colours just moving their way into in from kind of eastern parts of Europe, heading into Italy and kind of moving their way towards Switzerland as well. So this is kind of a warmer plume of air drifting its way inwards. So not only have we got the pressure declining, we've also got this plume of warm air that's going to really destabilise the air, make it quite unstable. And it's going to create quite a lot of convection as well. So we've got rising air, low pressure, a warm plume adding to convection. We've also got some high ground across the Alps. That's a third trigger that can create quite heavy, intense downpours. So all these triggers all together are really adding on to the effect across the central Mediterranean, bringing in those heavy outbreaks of rain, the potential for thunderstorms with all that convection moving through, and some quite strong winds as well around that area of low pressure. So how much rainfall can we kind of expect? Well, this is through the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we can see already northern parts of Italy, southern Switzerland, there's a 174 millimetres marked on there. Obviously this is model data, we'll have to see what happens over the next few days. Sardinia, for example, kind of around 50 millimetres by the time we reach Thursday. Sardinia and, I forgot what, I knew I'd forget it, Corsica, sorry, I knew I'd forget that island. Also looking at some quite high rainfall totals. Oh, just drive back to that one. So in some areas they could see a month's worth of rainfall. Obviously that's going to lead to some impacts, further flooding as well. Any holiday makers, I'm sure that's not the kind of weather they were expecting as they booked their flights over there as well. So there is the potential for seeing some impacts here as we head over the next few days as well. So it's not just across the UK that's expecting an unsettled spell of weather over the next few days, also many areas across the central Mediterranean as well. So, oh, and strong winds, before I forget as well, some quite strong winds. So here we've got a little key on the edge here. If I just orientate you once again. So here is the southern coast of the UK, it's Sardinia here. Here's the kind of southern tip of Italy here as well. So you can see across many areas of the central Mediterranean some kind of reds, blue colours. So we're looking around between 50 and 60 knots potentially, and obviously lots of holiday makers, maybe on a boat, on a cruise, or whatever. So it's heavy rain, strong winds, really stormy conditions elsewhere across parts of Europe. So there's a lot of unsettled weather around. It's really hard to escape it, particularly if you're on the Easter holidays. So a couple of things definitely going on as we head across the world as well. So I think that's pretty much everything that I wanted to talk about for the week. So I hope that's about as much detail as I can give you for the Easter weekend, if you're hoping for a little bit more. But as we head through the next few days, we'll really delve into the forecast. We'll be updating you across our social media channels as well with the kind of weather we can expect. Hopefully, perhaps one of the model runs that looks a little bit drier for all those hoping to go out for an Easter egg hunt. Hopefully, one of those comes to fruition, but we'll have to keep an eye out. But obviously, if we do see some quite heavy rainfall, keep an eye on our website, as I'm sure we'll be issuing warnings for that. There's still a couple of warnings issued, as I showed you, across Wales, the southwest Northern Ireland, so keep updated with those. It could lead to some flooding, potentially some travel disruption, quite poor conditions if you're still like me, still having to head into work over the next few days as well. So there's lots on our website, lots across our social media channels to keep you updated. And of course, if you want to let anyone know about the kind of weather we could expect over the Easter holidays, make sure to like this video and share it around with your friends and family too. Now, I do have some bad news. Normally I say if you have any questions, leave them and we can answer them in this week's live. I'm afraid there's not going to be a Weather Studio live on Friday. If the weather looks particularly bad over the weekend, we may be able to do one on Thursday, but at the moment we've not got one scheduled. But still leave your comments in this video, and we'll take a look, and I'll try and answer some of them in the comments as well, since we can't answer them on Thursday. But nevertheless, we will all be back next week for our Weather Studio Live as well. So save your questions if you're really keen to answer them live. Otherwise, that's it from me. I hope you have a lovely week and enjoy the Easter bank holiday weekend, and I'm sure I'll see you again very soon. Bye bye.